Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It is the 20th of July, 2023. It's Thursday. My name is Kerry Holzman. I'm a professional computer repair technician in the industry since 1991, and prior to that as a hobby since about 1982. So I've been doing this a very long time, and I'm here to share with you my experience and my opinions from the things I've learned when there wasn't any books, or very few books, and there wasn't any Google, and we had to do things, Gen X style. And yeah, this has become my career, obviously. And today, I have a machine that I had to, well, I've been working on getting this customer to let this machine go for a long time. This computer was obsolete 5 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, for business purposes. This was used in an accounting business, and this is an interesting story, but essentially, if I can make it short, these folks used to work at a big company that I worked for. And then the company sold off to another company, and the owner decided he wanted to retire, and there was no one to pass the business on to, so he sold off the company. That was a pretty large company. I'd say it was about a medium-sized company with about 20 employees. And it'd been around since the 70s. I only worked for them for about 2 years. And I've known them for probably 10 or 15 years at that point. I guess 10. And some of the employees, about 4 of them, started their own company in that same field of accounting. And they purchased these computers. Now, I didn't know any of this was happening. After they made the purchase and they had their business up and running, then I got a phone call to let me know what had happened. And because they were familiar with me and they liked me from the work I did at their previous employer, they asked if I would be their computer guy, which of course, yes, they're a pleasure to work for. So I went over there and I saw these machines, which at the time, this was about 2014. I had not been aware that Asus made desktop pre-builds. This was the first one I'd ever seen. And they're pretty much the same as any Dell or HP or other big brand pre-builds in the sense that they've got their own built-in update utility. This particular customer is somebody who only does the certain sequence of events. They run certain applications, and beyond that, they don't mess with any settings or make any adjustments to the PC. So they're a pleasure to work for. I don't get, calls of self-created problems. And furthermore, this customer is very easygoing when it comes to computers. They just figure they'll deal with it, and they'll call me, and I'll get to it when I get to it. It's never one of those situations with this customer where the sky is on fire and they panic. They're very easygoing. They happen to be married to an IT person. And the last thing that IT person wants to do is any more IT work, which is why he didn't want to do it. So that's how I got the job. So the benefit I have is that the owner of the company, or one of the owners of the company, hears from her husband all the time about all the frustrations in the industry. So she's very sympathetic to what I'm dealing with, and understands things to avoid certain computer behaviors or experiments to avoid in order to avoid creating problems. And so she's a pleasure to work for. But I've been trying to get rid of this computer. I've been trying to convince her for the last 5 or 6 years to get rid of this computer. I had built them a replacement computer 2 years ago, and they had 2 of these. They might have more, but there are 2 main people in the office that had these. And the other person's very computer literate, but as a user, and therefore doesn't really have questions for me. Again, super easy company to work with. Their managed service providing basically is make sure the backups are done every week. I can do that remotely. Make sure the computers are updated and maintained. I do that remotely. And then on occasion, they might have a printer issue. That's kind of more or less it. I mean, as far as customers go, boy, I could take on another dozen customers like this because they're a pleasure to work for. In fact, all the customers I have right now are a pleasure to work for, but it wasn't always that way. So anyway, I built them 2 new computers 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, and they sat in the office in a box, brand new, for a year. Because I thought, let them do it on their time. I don't know how busy their schedule is from week to week or month to month, aside from, of course, tax season. So I didn't expect it to go a full 365 days. I mean, we came around all the way back to the date that I dropped it off, but a year later, and they still sat brand new in the boxes. And they started having some issues. And I said, look, there's no reason we should invest any time or money into this, resolving these issues, when you have 2 brand new computers. If you ever had an excuse, this is it, to get the machines out and get them set up the way you like them. Now, as a tax accountant, this person has multiple installations of tax software going back, every year it's a new version of tax software. Sometimes the client might come in with hasn't done their taxes in a few years, so they need to keep the old tax software on there. They also need the old tax software typically for like customer calls and wants a copy of their records from 3 years ago, copy of their return. So the thought of having to reinstall, relocate, reinstall, and reactivate all of the installed tax software that's been put on this year after year after year was something they just had a lot of anxiety about. In fact, they have a client where they manage the accounting for a business. And what that business has done is said, we're using this version of QuickBooks. So if you download QuickBooks, we'll give you one of our license keys. So that means when they upgrade the computer and we have to reinstall everything, a clone won't work with Quicken or even Adobe products. It senses that the hard drive has changed and you have to reactivate everything all over again. It's a royal pain in the butt. So in this case, not only would they have to reactivate, but they'd have to relocate the original installation software. Call that customer up and say, hey, I'm going to need that license again, and a download link, Quicken, that you want me to do your accounting remotely for. So that's why it had been procrastinated, but finally, I've got it. Success. Good news is the new computer's running wonderfully. I haven't had any issues. They haven't called me with any concerns. And we're off to the races. Now, we initially, because of the complexity of the scenario, I set them up with a KVM switch. That's a keyboard video monitor switch, so they can switch between the old computer and the new computer to make this transition as easy as possible. Because I think a lot of the anxiety comes from all of the hours and hours and hours you're going to have to spend to reset everything up again, just like it was. And I don't think you should set it up just like it was. This is your opportunity to only install the software you need, instead of just what I see a lot of people do is they want to put everything back from the old computer on the new one with no thought or concern about how often they need that piece of software or when the last time they used it was. It's just, I had it before, I want it again. So I said, look, same thing I tell all my clients. When you first got the computer, you did not install all these software programs and configure everything the minute you sat it down on your desk when you took it out of the box. You have been slowly building on this year after year after year, week after week, month after month, and this is where we're at now. So my advice to you is, let's put the software back on you need today and tomorrow or this week. We'll get the printers configured. We'll get your email configured. Get whatever version of Quicken or TurboTax or QuickBooks, whatever it is. Let's do that first so you can get back to work. And then you just hit this button. So we'll set the 2 towers next to each other and you hit this button and you can use the same keyboard, same mouse, and same dual screens to go back and forth between the old PC and the new PC as needed if there's an older piece of software on the old PC that you need to, get in there once in a while. Then when you're ready, that's a piece of software you're having to go to more and more often. Go ahead and reinstall that piece of software on the new PC when you're ready. Then there's one less reason you have to go back to the old PC. And over a period of time, you will eventually move everything over that you need. Then if there's something that you haven't used, then you really should think about if it's worth spending the time and effort to reinstall it on the new PC if you haven't used it in that much time. So that I set them up, and I had to set them up with Wi-Fi because the office was only wired with one Ethernet port. It was bad at getting a network switch, and the problem was their surge protector was all maxed out now. There wasn't any extra plugs to use. So I just put one computer on Wi-Fi, left the old computer on the wired, and said, call me if you have any questions, and stayed that way for, how long has it been? About 6 months. I honestly expected it to last about a year because they move very slowly. So I was surprised when they said, hey, we're ready for you to take the old one, sanitize it, recycle it, whatever you're going to do with it. And they were having an odd problem where when they would restart a computer and switch back and forth with the KVM switch, that the monitor resolution would be like in safe mode. And that was because they were restarting the computer without the computer being selected on the KVM. So it wasn't detecting the monitor properly. And so I told them, you have to select the monitor on the KVM switch, select the computer rather on the KVM switch first before you restart it. And they just couldn't seem to really grasp that. So to them, it was a mystery why sometimes the second monitor would appear and other times it wouldn't. So I said, okay, well, once we remove the KVM switch, that'll solve this. And to further complicate matters, they have old monitors that only have VGA and DVI inputs. They have no HDMI inputs. And they asked me, do we need to replace our monitors? And I said, I would, but if you like your monitors and there's nothing wrong with them, we can get adapters. So we got adapters. And these monitors are the same in all the offices. So if we did the one office, we wouldn't just be replacing 2, we'd have to replace 8 in order to keep everything the same. And that's a lot of money and it's a lot of time, and it's a non-issue because at the end of the day, they would still get the same size screens they have now. And the screens they have now are working fine. So, okay, save your money. So went down there, took care of that, brought this back. It was very dusty. I got all the dust blown out of it. When I put the replacement PC up, originally set these up side by side, I took the mechanical drive out of here because it was just so slow. And I cloned it to a solid state drive, just a 2.5-inch solid state drive. And when I did that, they lost all their activations for all their Quicken products. So I said, well, the good news is this computer is going to be a lot faster now with the solid state drive. The bad news is you're going to have to call tech support for Quicken and have them reactivate these programs again. And they're just punishing honest people is what they do. So then to have to turn around and reinstall and reactivate again on the new PC, well, it's very understandable why they were so reluctant to make the move. But now that they've done it, they should be good for at least another 8 to 10 years because I oversold them. I actually sold the computers for less money than it cost me in parts to encourage them to get something that's going to last a long time and be easy for me to maintain, have easy to replace parts if they ever need a parts replacement. Decked them out with 64 gigs of RAM. They're still running Windows 10, and we'll talk about upgrading them to Windows 11 or potentially Windows 12 sometime in 2025. That stretches the pain out, right? Because if we moved them to Windows 11, and then on top of everything else, they've got to figure out the new operating system, and there's no real incentive to do that because there's no benefit for them to be more productive, or it really has literally zero benefit for them. It's only a negative. So we're going to postpone that until 2025 for that reason and sort of split up this disruption to their business in little fragments rather than, shutting the whole thing down and having them struggle for weeks until they get it figured out. So that's the logic behind it. Now I was just looking for, oh, let's see. I'll go over here to my YouTube page and say hello to everybody in the chat. Welcome in. Hope everybody's doing well. And for some reason, oh, I see. I have to click it first. There's everybody. Change my resolution on here. There's got to be a way to permanently set this. It always wants to default to 144p my resolution when it's set to auto. So I set it to 1080 and all of a sudden a blurry picture gets nice and clear. Now, I was also eyeing a different camera. Carrie, don't you have enough cameras by now? Apparently not. A lot of people like the picture quality of the little Sony cameras we've been shooting with on close-ups, but they're not good for main camera because they get hot and shut down after about an hour and 20 minutes. So that doesn't work for me. And since everybody likes the picture quality of the Sony, I thought maybe I should look at Sony instead of Canon for a camcorder. Well, it doesn't look like Sony has made a camcorder in 4 or 5 years. So I was looking at I think it's a ZX70, and those are still about $2,800 on Amazon new. And I saw one on eBay for $1,800 from a pawn shop that said it was in good shape. I thought, do I really want to spend $1,800? I think the picture quality, nobody's really complained about it, but it's still not quite right. And I was hemming and hawing thinking about it. Is there what I really need to do, rather than, keep swapping out cameras, is I need to create a lookup table or an LUT for this camera. And OBS has a built-in, has a JPEG for setting your LUT. And basically what you do is you set your colors in a graphical program and then save that LUT file. Well, it's actually just an image, it's a JPEG. And then you load that as a filter in OBS to your camera, and it applies that filter to your camera exactly the same way that an LUT file would work, a lookup table. Problem is, when I did it, I made it worse, so I don't know what I'm doing. So if anybody understands lookup tables and might want to help out the channel by, and if you're familiar with OBS and how it uses the JPEG, you can take a still image from my video, or I can put up a color card if that helps. And then you can create the lookup table that I can apply. I may not need the new camera. On the other hand, the feedback I'm getting from the Sony camera is always positive. Whereas with the Canon camera, it's I've kind of set it somewhere that's good enough, but I know I'm not getting the most out of it. It requires a bit more camera knowledge than I have, and I really don't have time to sit down and play with it, only to end up making it worse and wishing I'd never touched it, which is why I haven't touched it since. Or the original idea was to go back and just pick up one of those Sony 4K camcorders for $2,000 to $3,000. And for all I know, it won't make any difference at all, right? I'm assuming if I get the same 1-inch sensor on the camcorder, Sony's got these nice cinema cameras like the FX30. I really think that's way overkill. I don't necessarily need anything with detachable lenses. This is just YouTube. But it's about the color clarity and sharpness of the image. And these Canon cameras are extremely powerful, and they work great on auto settings if you're outdoors. But indoors, especially in Studio B's environment, this has been an ongoing struggle, which is why I haven't addressed it or touched it in months. But the only way I'm going to know is by purchasing another camera and trying it, or by playing with the lookup tables. Of course, I have the Panasonic camcorder, and its color is terrible. Like, if you thought the Canon was off, Panasonic's far worse. Now, supposedly Panasonic has a newer camcorder that's better, but I don't really hear people talking and bragging about it. It's not very popular. And I don't want to go with a digital SLR because, again, they tend to overheat when I'm doing live streams. And there's a million settings. I want to be able to turn it on and go. And at the very least, maybe just set my color temperature and be done with it. So I'm kind of eyeballing that, keeping an eye on what's available from Sony. And of course, if you guys have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below the video. Paul Kitching says you really need to shoot flat for an LUT to work properly and turn off any camera processing of the image video. Yeah, so I don't. Basically, what I want to do is be able to let the camera do what it's doing and do all the image correction in OBS from the HDMI feed going into OBS. So I would color image it, or at least I would use the OBS image that's intended for LUT to set the colors properly according to what the camera's putting out. I'm not looking for post video production. I don't want to shoot flat or S-log because there's no color correction, because there is no post. It's all live. Steve H wants to know, did I use my leaf blower to blow out the PC? Yes, I didn't have the leaf blower with me when I went to the client's office to do the swap out. So it was very dusty in there when I was replacing the mechanical drive with the solid state drive. 6 to 10 months ago, I think is when that was. I can't remember. Might have been 12 months ago. But I did encourage the customer to order those these things here, air compressor, air guns, and they ordered 2 of them because they wanted one to take home. In the meantime, I just figured, well, we're retiring this anyway, so I'll just wait till I get it back to Studio B. So it literally got dusted out with a leaf blower about 20 minutes before I went live. Now, I want to say shout out and thank you to people who have contributed during today's live stream, even before the stream started. Planet Cryos with $2 says that thumbnail looks familiar, LOL. It just seemed appropriate. I didn't think you'd mind. Ella Lindos contributes $27.77. Hi, Marlena in chat. I'm early. Here's my extra early fee. And Davis Parsons with a $10 super chat says, Carrie, here's my late fee. I've been at the doctor's office. You know, you're excused. Thank you, Davis Parsons, Alan Lindos, and Planet Cryos for supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys. Luke Greeny says, sent you a little something via PayPal. Thank you, Luke. There was also a gentleman emailed me, Gregory emailed me, and said that his computer had a high-pitched whine coming out of it all of a sudden. Yeah, Luke Greeny has sent $25 via PayPal. Thank you, Luke. So, you know, I've always encouraged my members of the channel, the people that pay for membership, to reach out anytime. I'm happy to answer your emails and help out any way I can. So, mentioned he had a high-pitched whine coming from one of the USB ports, and I said, well, what I would do if I were you is just disconnect everything via USB one at a time until the noise goes away. And then at that point, you can determine if it's your USB port or if it's a USB device. So he said, thank you for your advice. I told you I would let you know the outcome, so here's my diagnosis and repair. I took all the USB cables off after shutting down the system, and one by one, I placed them back in and found that one drive cable had an issue. So I replaced it with a new cable from the stash drawer for emergencies. The same noise returned. Next, I thought I would try eliminating ports and found that one port is having issues and the reason for the noises. I then left that port blank and plugged all the drives into other USB 3.0 ports, and now the noise is gone. I ordered a brand new 4-port USB 3.0 card and front port drive to replace the 2-port with the issue. Solved with your help, of course. Thanks again. And that's from viewer Greg. So that always tickles me, makes me feel good when users ask for advice and then don't argue about the advice, but actually follow the advice and follow up with me. And this all happened in the span of a few hours. He didn't waste any time. So yeah, I wanted to share that with y'all. I also, Edgar in the chat says, are you selling that computer? This computer is very old. This is a 4th generation Intel, so it's only going to be good for Windows 10. There's no upgrade to Windows 11. You could run Linux on it. But if you're interested in doing any sort of business with me, which means you want to have me repair something, upgrade something, you want to buy something from me, this isn't an auction. In other words, the audience isn't all here for me and you to discuss and negotiate pricing. What you should do to be more appropriate to handle this is to email me directly and let me know what your interest is. Now, I've had people email me directly with articles. A lot of times, for whatever reason, people email me the very same posts or same stories that I've already posted about hours or days earlier on my Twitter feed. They're like, thought you'd want to see this. It's like, well, not only have I already seen it, I already posted about it on my Twitter feed. You're just repeating back what I said hours or days ago. Oh, sorry, I don't look at your Twitter feed. I don't have Twitter, whatever. In other words, I'm trying to help you by providing you information that you already know about, but I can't be bothered to check and see because I want to help you. And what that does is it clutters my inbox, right? I mean, it sometimes gets overwhelming with the number of messages that I get. And the messages where people have something business related, in other words, you're looking to hire me, you're looking to send something to me, you want me to send something to you, that's all fine and dandy. But when I get a bunch of people also just needlessly copying and pasting links to articles, please do not do that. I understand why you're doing it, but it's pretty rare that anybody ever sends me anything that I either don't already know about, or the reason I don't know about it is because I don't care. So please don't do that. But if you do want to reach out in anything business related, then yes, please do email me. And we can discuss, what's on your mind, for sure. Michael Eady wants to know, are RAID Max power supply units reliable and good quality? Well, I don't use RAID Max power supplies. I don't know that you've ever seen one on this channel, so that should answer your question. So I don't use them. I don't recommend them. Whether or not they're good quality, no idea. Do they have good customer support? No idea. Read the reviews on the retailer's page if it's Newegg or Amazon and see what other people have to say. Maybe do a Google search, see what people have to say. Power supply is not that big of an investment, so I don't think you're really having much financial risk here if you're, looking to buy something that perhaps is on sale or for some reason has drawn your attention to this brand. Me personally, I'm running a business and I don't experiment with my customers like that. We get name brand power supplies only from reputable companies like NZXT and EVGA. On occasion, I'll still use Corsair and Thermaltake and, there's one I'm forgetting, Seasonic. Yeah. But remember, I'm running a business. You're just a home user, so it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, whether or not I think it's reliable really will have no impact on the one unit you buy. If I'm buying 100 units and 10% of them go bad, that's enough to pretty much ruin my reputation and put me out of business with regards to all the free labor I have to do and the customers I have to calm down and convince that they shouldn't lose their faith in me and my abilities because I tried to save some money. So you have a different reason for buying power supplies than I do. So I don't think my opinion matters much in your scenario. But if I were in your scenario, I'd just read the reviews and determine if the amount of money I'm about to save is really worth it, or if I should just get my peace of mind going with a well-known name brand. But I appreciate the question. Mikeman wants to know if DisplayPort cables are harder to disconnect than HDMI cables. Some DisplayPort cables have a latch release and some don't. Some of the DisplayPort cables. So the new DisplayPort to HDMI adapters I picked up from Amazon, these here, are a little longer than the black adapters I was using. And these just push in no differently than an HDMI cable, and they pull out no differently. The older unit I was using, I forget who the brand was, but you had to push down to release the locking mechanism on them. So some people might find that more difficult, but I mean, you're literally just pushing down a little button and pulling it. I don't think either cable is difficult to remove. I mean, unless you're arthritic or you're missing a limb, I can't understand why that would really matter. But do know when you're purchasing cables, or in this case, DisplayPort cables, you can watch to see whether or not they have the locking mechanism on them. And if the locking mechanism bothers you, don't buy that one. So again, I appreciate the question there. Frank Jimmy says, Carrie, I received a Synology DS223 NAS I ordered on Amazon Prime Day. I was expecting the delivery of 2 Western Digital Red Pro 18 terabyte hard drives today, but Amazon just informed me of a delay with no ETA on delivery. Yeah, I would have gone with Seagate Ironwolf drives. If I was you, Frank, I would cancel the Western Digital Pro order. Now you've got a reason to cancel it. I would order the Seagate Ironwolf drives. If you do a YouTube search on Western Digital NAS drives, you'll see there's one particular gentleman on YouTube who's warning everybody not to buy them. Now, I don't know all the details or which models it affects, but he was pissed off enough, and he's a regular YouTube content creator doing NAS info. But let me share this with you here. Turn on my window capture, and we go over to that button right there. So this gentleman is Space Rex, and the title of the video, which was out a month ago, so it's a fairly new video. Also, NAS Compares. I really like this guy's reviews. He's there in England. And there's a lot of concerns in the NAS community, at least on YouTube, here on the internet, regarding Western Digital Red drives. This has not impacted me because I don't use them regardless, but certainly feel vindicated. I would go with the Seagate Ironwolf if I were you. Jim KJ3N says probably got SMR drives instead of CMR drives. Yeah, Jim, I think that's what the issue is, that they're not properly labeled, that they're advertised one way and what you're getting is something else, and it's causing a lot of outrage. This computer right here, if we look, I found the Newegg page for this from 2014. And I'll show you how it is spec'd out here. So this is the M51AD. This is a Core i7-4770. It originally came with 16 gigs of DDR3 and a 1 terabyte mechanical hard drive and an NVIDIA GeForce 650, GTX 650. And, you know, it was Windows 8. And as far as computers go, it's not a bad machine. I can't really say that it was unusual. It's the only time I've ever seen an Asus pre-built. I didn't even know they existed prior. And it's functioned fine. It's been a very reliable computer, but it's pretty limited on what we can do with it. So, you know, it's not as versatile as a PC that I would build. And in fact, these days, I suppose I would probably just recommend a mini PC for this customer now. So let me take the cover off of it here. That's the inside of it. As you can see, I've got one of the 2.5-inch to 3.5-inch adapters you saw me using a lot of a couple of years ago. Luckily, I still had some of those left over. They're made of metal, and the holes line up with where the holes would be on a 3.5-inch hard drive, which is so unusual. You'd think that would be standard on a 2.5-inch to 3.5-inch drive converter, but that's the only one I ever found that consistently always put the holes and the SATA power connector in the exact same location as a 3.5-inch drive, only instead it works as a drive sled, so you can mount a 2.5-inch drive into it, secure it down, and still be able to mount this piece right here into an enclosure or a tray that the manufacturer didn't think about the potential for 2.5-inch drives. That's one of the problems when buying these pre-builts as well. You'll also notice the power supply is still up at the top. This is one of the last models that did that. Overall, it's been a good little computer. Oh, the hard drive here says it was a 2 terabyte hard drive. And it's got these little access doors here. There's a memory card reader. There is a DVD reader writer in there. So it's sort of the last tail end of that era. And then they've got these plugs they put over the onboard video ports, since they included this graphics card instead. And I like when companies do that. I'm sure they like it too, because it ends up resulting in support calls when the customer plugs their monitor into one of the ports that's not being used, and they don't understand why they're not getting any video output. I see Chris Garrett has renewed his support here for the channel. He's now been a member for, looks like 6 months. Well, I just see a 6 badge. I won't see another number after 6 until we get to 12. So he's somewhere between 6 and 12. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for supporting the channel. Marco, joining us from Italy, says, last week I helped a colleague of mine to troubleshoot and clone a machinery dedicated workstation running Windows 95 that wasn't connected to the internet. That's, yeah, when you're dealing in a factory or, you know, a dedicated machine, that's what we call air gapped. It doesn't have a connection to the internet. That's pretty common in factories and things where they're running some proprietary software custom written to operate their machines. And that's why you'll often find old obsolete parts costing a lot of money, because if those machines go down and they need a part, like let's say they need a new motherboard, they don't make those boards and they haven't made them for years. So anybody who's got one for sale is going to want a lot of money for it. And that may be cheaper for the company still to pay $300-400 for the $60 motherboard than to have to replace the computer and then reconfigure the thing for the machinery. And all the meantime, their production is down if it's a mission critical machine. Very common. Good for you, Marco. Neil wants to know, what are the advantages to placing the power supply at the bottom of the case? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. It wasn't my idea to move it. Initially, when power supplies were, when I started building computers in 1991 professionally, the power supplies were put at the top of the case traditionally. And the idea was you'd have a fan blowing air out the back, which would create a natural vacuum to draw air in from this part of this power supply. This part of the power supply is now sealed, the back of it. And instead now we use a much larger fan than this relatively small fan back here to draw air in, to pull air in, whereas this fan is just an exhaust fan and it creates a natural vacuum. Cabling on these is very, very difficult with the power supply being up at the top. So as far as hiding your cabling, there's no power supply shroud or any way to really hide it. So I've never really thought about advantages or disadvantages. I've mostly been concerned with making sure I've got a power supply that's going to function within the case that it was designed for. So, well, we could put a modern day power supply in there, which would draw air in from the bottom and blow it out the back. It wouldn't hurt anything, but it's definitely not as clean of a look. But I don't know, others in the chat might have some thoughts on it. I don't really care one way or the other, but it's not like it matters what advantages or the disadvantages are, in the sense that you and I aren't going to change the industry. So if the industry shifts and my job is to repair computers in the industry, I don't have control over those industry shifts. I just have to, in order to stay in business, provide my customers with the service they need. If they start putting power supplies sideways to the front, and so be it. I don't care. Frank Jimmy says, thanks for the good advice, but now that Prime Day is over, I won't get a good deal on Seagate Iron Wolf drives. I don't know, Frank, you might be surprised. Amazon has good deals all year round, and they run specials all the time. You have to decide, you know, we're talking about 18 terabytes of data. I don't know what kind of deal you got, but if there's anything that I wouldn't recommend you go cheap on, it's your hard drives. So it's very strange to me that you will potentially load up 18 terabytes worth of data that you think is worth saving, but you want to do it as cheaply as you possibly can. You might be setting yourself up for a catastrophe. Maybe, or at least if nothing else, you might be setting yourself up for a bunch of headache warranty returns. And then when you have to pay to ship the drives back from warranty, and you add up the cost of that, plus the cost of your time and your downtime and potentially lost data, I wonder if what you're saving is truly worth it. But at the end of the day, that's for you to decide. And, you know, you might buy these drives and they might be trouble-free for all I know. So, you know, whatever you decide is the right decision for you, but do understand there's more at stake here than a few dollars. Potentially there's hours and hours of your time and even more money down the road, but you do you. I'm running a business. I wouldn't do that to a customer. I wouldn't force a customer into a piece of hardware because it was on sale. But you're not running a business, so you don't have that problem. Matt Power says, I remember when you used to plug your monitor into your power supply. Well, it was an option back in the AT style power supplies. You had a power in and a power out, but you had to have a special power out cable to power your monitor with it. I don't recall many people ever taking advantage of that. Most people still power their monitor separately with its own power cable. Every once in a while, very, very rarely, I'd encounter a PC that somebody actually had that specialty cable. But yeah, that's true. Dwayne says, I don't recall seeing Iron Wolf drives discounted on Prime Day. He bought Western Digital drives, Dwayne. Steven says, Carrie, do you remember that video issue with the Minis Forum 790? It looks like it doesn't work well. with any older TV. I want to buy one. Do you think the problem will be solved? Buy a new driver. As far as I know, the problem has not been solved. It does appear to be driver related, and I would hope that it will be resolved whenever a newer driver comes out. I don't even think that the chipset, the 780M, is it? I don't think that's even officially supported by AMD at this point. It's that brand new that the manufacturers who are selling it are having to create their own, or they're using sort of unfinished drivers. To the best of my knowledge, AMD has not officially released that 780M. I can't speculate on what AMD is going to do any more than I can tell you what cards a person I'm playing poker with has in their hand. But I can tell you that I'm hopeful. Would I buy one if that was a concern? I would not. If I were you, and that's important to you, I would wait until the problem is resolved, if it ever gets resolved. There's new hardware coming out all the time, and there might be something better that comes out before this is resolved. Or, roll the dice if you want to, but there's nobody on the internet that can answer your question with any accuracy. It's all speculation and guessing. And if you want to spend that kind of money on speculation and guessing, and it's something that important to you, I advise against it. Chris Garrett says, is this the Asus you worked on years ago, a virus? You tapped F8 to get safe mode, but on Asus, F8 takes you to the BIOS. No, I don't think I've ever had this. Have I ever had an Asus computer desktop on this channel? I've had plenty of Asus motherboards and plenty of Asus laptops, but I have no recollection of an Asus desktop. If you have a link to the video, please post it in the chat. Larry Wood says, please hit the thumbs up button. There's 318 people watching and only 87 likes. That's kind of you, Larry. I appreciate you promoting the channel for me. So Chris is, once again, not. So Chris, you can tell me about a video I did. I've got over 1,600 videos in my library, and you can keep telling me what I did in it, and it doesn't raise any recollection. But if you believe that I have a video where I worked on an Asus PC, please post a link to it. Otherwise, I mean, I'm just useless to be able to answer your question in that regard, because I have no idea what you're talking about. So I don't know. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Based on the information you're providing, it is so vague to me. I have no idea. All right. Dwayne says he was saying he now has missed out on Prime Day discounts, referring to your suggestion he buy the Iron Wolf drives. Yeah, Dwayne, so I guess the logic is he must have bought these Western Digital drives as part of a sale that Amazon was having. And now they're arriving late. Maybe Amazon's been really bad with packages arriving late lately for me. Like almost everything I order now arrives late. And so when they send me the late notice, I cancel the order. I'm like, that's it. Like if it's something that was supposed to be delivered in the morning and now it's going to be delivered in the evening, it shows it has shipped, I'm okay with it. But if it says your product is running late and we don't know when you're going to receive it, I cancel the order. I do not. One of the benefits of ordering from Amazon is the convenience. And I need to keep myself in business. I can't tell a customer, I don't know when I'm going to have your part. It was supposed to be in today, but now it's running late and there's no ETA. So I would rather cancel the order, then order it again, and then I have a prominent ETA that I can tell the customer, okay, it looks like it should be here Wednesday. And because Amazon isn't giving me that renewed ETA, even if the ETA is tomorrow, but they don't know, I'll still cancel it and wait 2 or 3 additional days so I have a proper and accurate estimated time of arrival, or ETA. I had an order that Amazon said that appears your order was lost in the mail. This just happened like 2 weeks ago. So it had a button said reorder. Well, I mean, I still need it. So yeah, reorder it. And so the one I reordered showed up like the next day, like it was supposed to. And then 10 days go by and I leave to go get a bite to eat. It's like 8 o'clock at night. Home all day. I just want to go around the corner, get a bite to eat. So I leave. As soon as I order my food and sit down, fast food place, my security camera goes off and it shows the UPS guy ringing the doorbell. It's after 8 o'clock at night. I wasn't expecting any packages. I had no notification from UPS that anything was coming. And I see the guy just standing there waiting for somebody to answer the door. And then he ends up putting the package by the door and he leaves. So apparently the package didn't require a signature. I don't know what he rang the doorbell for. So I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I don't care. I'm hungry. I'm eating. Didn't let it bother me. After I got back, checked the front door. There's the box. I open it up. It's the missing package that I'd already had replaced a week earlier. So then I went on Amazon and sure enough, it shows, before it said lost in the mail. Now it shows delivered. So I said, return, refund the money back to my account. And Amazon says, how do you want to return this? The Kohl's drop off, Kohl's department store, Whole Foods drop off, or UPS store. Well, there's no Kohl's or Whole Foods close to here, but there's a UPS store right around the corner. So UPS store, I just show them a barcode or a QR code and hand them the box. And they say, well, if you want to drop it off at the UPS store, you have to box it and label it. Okay, well, it's already in the box and I can print out a label, tape it over the original label. And that label even had another label over it. So maybe that's what happened, is something was wrong with the original label or it was torn, part of the address. I don't know. I don't care. And then had to get in the car and make a trip over to the UPS store and hand that to them and collect my receipt. That was all a complete waste of my time. And so that money can be credited back to me for an order that should have arrived to begin with. I ordered some RAM and some storage drives, and those were on sale. And then it said, there's a delay in shipping. This has all happened within the last 10 days. There's a delay in shipping. We don't know when your item is expected. So I canceled the order and I ordered the same RAM again. I think it was $2 more. It wasn't on sale anymore, but I don't care about $2 times, there were 3 of them, so it's $6 total. And I got it in 2 days like I'm supposed to. It cracks me up when I hit cancel on those deliveries that aren't going to show up on time. And it says, we will try to cancel the order, but if it shows up, you can easily return it. How's it going to show up? It hasn't even shipped. It's one thing if it shows it shipped and I have, a tracking button, but if it still hasn't shipped yet, I got things to do. One of the reasons I order from Amazon is how fast they are, how they expedite. So if they're not expediting, and I understand they might have been bogged down because of Prime Day, fully expected, but just let me know when I can expect it. Okay, if it's not showing up today, then when is it showing up? We don't know. Not acceptable. Cancel the order. So I think I canceled 5 orders in the last 10 days and reordered 5 times. And all the reorders came through like they were supposed to. Oh, my Seagate Iron Wolf drives that I ordered, those were one that was running late. They were supposed to be delivered in the morning. And, you know, I selected the morning thinking I'm doing the delivery people a favor by having them, you know, deliver early in the morning before the temperatures go up. You know, we're 118, 119 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're breaking records with the number of days in a row it's 110 or above. And there's no sign of letting up. So I got a notice that that package with those Seagate Ironwolf drives was running late, but that it was still supposed to be delivered today, or, you know, it was that day, it wasn't today. And sure enough, right at the peak heat of the day, which is about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it is scorching outside. Here comes the Amazon delivery truck dropping those drives off, and they package the drives in a plastic envelope instead of in a box. So I haven't tested them yet. I'm hoping Synology is sending me their new Synology for review, and I ordered the drives for that review. That's $600 worth of drives, two 18 terabyte Seagate Ironwolves, about $300 a piece. And I haven't heard anything back from Synology. So sending it, I don't know. I'm sure I'll find a use for them, or I'll send them back to Amazon because I could use that $600 for something else, quite frankly. Tim Teal says, Carrie, I have a Camrui GK3 I need drivers for. And I tried the site you recommended and no luck. It did have a full install, but it didn't have any drivers. Do you have any thoughts? Tim, the Camrui GK3 should be the same as the Ace Magician GK3. I might have the drivers on my Google Drive. GK3. I don't know if I have the, let me just check my Google Drive and see if I've got them. If so, I can send you the link. Did you contact Camrui tech support requesting the drivers? Because they're really good about getting back to you and providing you with a link, but you do have to ask for them. Let's see. Drivers for mini PCs is the folder. Yeah, AK1 GK3. Yep. Yeah, I do have it. So you can email me and I can send you the link. But what I would do if I were you is I would email Camrui support, because it's really their responsibility to provide those to you upon request. I wonder if you go to Ace Magician's website, which is acemagicians.com. And then look under drivers. Camrui GK3 drivers. Pretty sure the way I got the drivers was I just asked support for them. Send me a link. But yeah, I can share a link to my Google Drive. It's just I shouldn't have to provide that service for Camrui. You know what I mean? That Camrui took your money. I didn't take your money. Natty Light King says, is it unusual for Windows 11 to require more than 8 gigs of RAM? So Windows 11 really needs a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM. I know Microsoft says it'll run on 4, but it doesn't work well. Most people if all you're doing is running Windows and you don't have any antivirus, you're not putting any applications on, I guess 8 gigs of RAM is enough, just enough. But the minute you start opening applications and installing applications, whether it's like Google Chrome or antivirus or anti-malware products, now you need more RAM for those products, which it's going to use virtual RAM from your storage drive, which is much slower. These days, I recommend a minimum of 16 gigs of RAM for Windows 10 or 11. And if you can afford it, 32 gigs of RAM. Most people don't use as much as 32. And if you're a power user, then 64. I very rarely would recommend anything over 64. And RAM is so inexpensive right now. But yeah, I would not recommend running Windows 11 with 8 gigs of RAM. It's going to be, it's barely enough for Windows 11 to run. So it'll work, but it'll work better with 16. It's been that way. I mean, it's not new information. We've known this. Pretty much the same applies for Windows 10, except, some of the PCs we're giving away actually run pretty good with 8 gigs of RAM as long as they've got a solid state drive in them on Windows 10. Doman says 8 gigs is enough for regular home use, really. Yeah, I'm going to agree to disagree with you. Being in the industry as a professional IT, I mean, I don't know what experience you have where you've come to this conclusion, but I can tell you as a working computer technician and dealing with customers on a regular basis, depends on the needs of the customer. Almost universally, if a customer has been getting by on 8, they almost certainly notice a difference with 16. I don't recall ever having an experience where an end user was upgraded to 16 and said, oh, this has made no difference. However, you do you advise your customers if you're in the industry, or if you're just somebody who is just going off of what you hear. I wouldn't use what you hear as a basis for telling other people what should be enough just as a hobbyist. What's the real people out there that I service, the only time we can, again, get away with 8 gigs of RAM on Windows 10 is if we have a solid state drive. I mean, if it's a mechanical drive, you're pack a Snickers bar, you're going to be a while. It's very, very slow. But each person and their level of patience and tolerance, as well as what they use the computer for, is so varied. I just think it's a disservice to tell somebody what they have is good enough. If they're telling you it isn't, then obviously you aren't listening. I guess I can do the reinstall on this. I'm going to just throw a fresh, clean copy of Windows 10 on here. I was debating whether or not to remove the drive. There's no M.2 in here. This is before M.2 was invented. This is 4th gen. And again, it's sort of the end, towards the end of that era of computers that were built with the power supply on top and, still had the mechanical drive. And machine runs perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. It is very old, and I wouldn't recommend anybody run a 4th gen CPU today. Truth be told, with Windows 10, 16 gigs of RAM, and a solid state drive, the 4th gen is relatively responsive with Windows 10. As long as you're not doing any resource intensive tasks like photo or video editing or, doing anything massively compute heavy. So I don't remember how much RAM this has in it though. It's only got 2 RAM sticks. So those could be 2 4s or 2 8s. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. I want to say it's 16. How much was it sold with? It says it was sold with 12. Okay, so maybe it's got 1 stick of 8 and 1 stick of 4. Very strange. But I was going to take the drive out and just hold it in case the customer realizes there's something they forgot to move over. And I told that to the customer, and the customer said they hadn't turned it on in a month. So they're very, very confident there's nothing left on it. I go, yeah, but if I take it out and just hold it for a month, just to be safe. She goes, well, you can do it if you want to, but I'm telling you, if I haven't needed it by now, I don't need it. Okay, so I guess I'm going to wipe it. I'm not going to argue with the customer if that's what the customer says. It's not my responsibility to back up the customer's computer. I'm simply offering to recycle the computer for them. And it's still good enough, to give away to a family in need or somebody who's got an older machine and can, just wants to get by until the end of 2025, until Windows 10 support ends. It'll be fine for that. Let me show you. I'll grab Windows 10 installation media and we'll plug that in back here. And then we'll plug in, what do we, yeah, we got an HDMI back there. Let's try, see, here's power. No power switch on the back of the bar. This power supply still has the mechanical switch between 110 and 220 volts, where today they're all auto switching. So once again, sort of the tail end of this era, one of the last machines made with this type of power supply. Puts us in 2014, 2015, 2016. The change was pretty well done. This was a transitioning year. And what do I need? I need a keyboard, a mouse. Oh, I need video. Video. Here's video. Plug that in right down here. There we go. And a keyboard and a mouse. We got lots of USBs up here. I see 2 USB 3.0s and 2 USB 2.0s right up here on the front. It's pretty nice. Obviously, only going to use a USB 2.0 for the keyboard and the mouse. And is that everything I need? I think that might be everything I need. Let me see, where is the power button on this thing? Who can tell me what the power button is? Let's test the audience and see. Where do you see a power button? What drive do I have in here? I have a team group 1 terabyte. I think it's called an L5. Is that what it's called? Yeah, an L5 2.5-inch SATA SSD. Now this SSD, I knew it was going to be on loan to this client. So this came out of another machine that I upgraded to a 2 terabyte. So this is the second life that this 2.5-inch solid state drive has had. Now we're about to give it a third life. Power is on top. Where on top is it? So this bar right here, you hit this button. If you hit the side of the bar, it's the button. I hate when they disguise the power button. There's nothing indicating to me that's a power button. It just has a small little LED right here in the corner. Apparently I've turned it on, but there's no LED when it's on. How does that work? Shouldn't there be an LED when it's on? I would think so. Let's see what we have. What is going on down here? Oops. Just put my knuckle in the CPU fan. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to just power this off by unplugging it. There's no on-off switch on the power supply. Let me turn this back on. And then let me put on, let's see, myself. Do that. Let's go this way. Turn this on. And let's turn it on here. I just don't want it to go to the desktop because I still have the customer stuff on there. So I'm trying to intentionally block the screen a bit. Press delete or F2 to enter setup. Okay, so I'm hitting delete. Okay, that's what I wanted. And then while we're in here, we should be able to adjust our boot to being the flash drive. Yeah, that's what it has in it. 12 gigs of RAM, an 8 gig RAM module, and a 4 gig. That's obviously how it came from the factory. Very unusual. This was kind of an advanced BIOS for its time, though. There's our CPU, the 4790S CPU on this model. Not sure if that's what I pointed to at Newegg or not. But it says it was a 4770. Anyway, this is a 4790. Use the mouse to drag and navigate, decide the boot priority. Windows, SanDisk Extreme. What if we change it, put it here? And then we'll choose to save and exit. That will be I guess we could probably just leave that where it was. I would put this to the end. Would do boot menu. Say UEFI SanDisk Extreme. That way it only boots to it the first time on the first boot. And then on subsequent boots, it'll boot to the internal drive. So if this works, we should be booting to the flash drive with the Windows 10 setup screen. John Williams says, Carrie, I just bought another key for Windows 10 Pro using your link for a great price again. VIP CDK deals are awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I just had to buy one too. I was getting a mini PC shipped out and I needed a Windows 10 license code and price went up a little bit. I was paying with the 30% discount using coupon code Carrie. It was $15.90, but I guess something happened in the exchange rate of the American dollar versus the, I don't know, Chinese yen. And it was $16.16. It was 26 cents more than I'm used to paying, but still a really good deal. All right, we're gonna set this up as though it was a brand new machine. So I go through all of the standard setup I normally do, except I'm going to delete all of the existing partitions on the drive. So this customer will not be able to recover anything if they call me and say, oh, did you erase that drive? I know you said you weren't going to. I'm pretty confident this customer isn't going to do that. And the customer did authorize me to erase it. And in fact, wants me to erase it for security reasons. This is people's accounting information after all. So holding on to it is actually an irresponsible thing to do. This is clearly the original system image from Asus because it's got more than 4 partitions. A lot of system integrators add a recovery partition, so that gives you a 5th partition. And that's one easy way you can tell if you're dealing with a system integrator install or a typical user install. So all that data is gone, at least all the partition information is gone. I mean, theoretically, the data is still on the drive, could be reconstructed, but not after I do this. So now it's creating new partitions, formatting those partitions, and then copying over the files it needs for Windows 10. I'll put camera 1 back on and I'll resize it a bit here. 1. Just put that over here. Greg Lilly says, time to update the BIOS. I think that's the latest BIOS update. As part of the job I was doing for this company is doing all the ongoing maintenance, which includes checking for BIOSes on a regular basis, which is typically twice a year. So unless one came out recently, which I doubt, should be the latest one if I'm doing my job correctly. Yeah, that kind of broke the skin on my knuckle with that plastic fan. It doesn't hurt. It's just, I'm surprised it actually broke skin. Usually don't do that. So while that's installing, I'm going to grab another cold Gatorade here. Yeah, I'm so done with the heat in the desert, and I know I have 6 more weeks of it at a bare minimum. Some kids are already starting school right now. You can believe that. Al has posted a link to the drivers. He says, here's the drivers if you need them. Yeah, I'll be kind of curious if the Windows OS finds everything automatically, given how old everything is. So we'll find out. Thank you for posting the link. Latest BIOS version is from 2015. Yeah, I would think that you could rewind this live video and see the BIOS version when I went into the BIOS a moment ago. I'm sure if that's the latest BIOS, I'm sure that's what we have. You hear that fan working a little bit there. All these fans are original as far as I know. CPU fan, rear case fan, and the power supply. This is all original parts. So all the fans have been working good. Just checking my email to see if anybody's reaching out. I've also added a couple coupon codes to the video description below the video. One is for Malwarebytes. It's 15% off, I believe. And the other is for Acronis. I'm going to try and keep those discounts all year round. I'm going to try to get you guys a bigger discount temporarily in the future, like have them on the show. And when we have them on the show, maybe offer a bigger discount for a few weeks. But in the meantime, if you're in the need for Malwarebytes or Acronis, if you use the links below and the coupon codes, you'll save 15%. I think it's 15. I think you're saving $15 on Acronis and 15% on Malwarebytes, which I think is like $7.50. I'm not sure. You guys can, if you use them, let me know how much you save. Then, of course, I still have 30% off for new customers of RoboForm. No coupon code needed, just use the link. There's the free trial for Instant House Call. Anybody can download and use that to determine if it'll be useful for you. It's great as a PC support tool. And then, of course, the VIP CDK deals with the Windows 10, Windows 11, and Office 2016, 2019, and 2021 product keys using the coupon code CARRY for 30% off. And I keep that all year round. So you don't have to hoard keys. Just wait till you need them, please. That way, if there's any problems, you know you're going to get customer service, because people who buy a product and then don't use it for months and then later have a support question and they claim that, you know, that this is the first time they've had a chance to use it. It's something scam artists do. So you come across like a scammer, and there is some resistance to support without overcoming or convincing the folks that you're genuine and real and you're not trying to scam them. The amount of scamming companies face today is incredible. So they have business practices in place to sort of say, hey, you know, we're going to take care of you from 30 days from purchase. And after that, man, you're on your own. So you wait longer than that and you have a problem, it's going to be on you to convince them that you're not a scammer and that you're genuine. And hopefully they'll take care of you, but they're legally not obligated to, just so you know. John Williams says, since this is a pre-built computer from Asus, will it get BIOS updates like HP or Dell computers? Yes. Yeah, there is an Asus update utility you have to run. Same with Dell and HP computers, you have to run the utility. And by us doing a clean install, that utility will not be part of the install. We'd have to go to the Asus website and download and install it. Although I think that would probably be a waste of resources. I don't think Asus will be paying any employees to develop anything any further on this motherboard, given its age. They're well out of the range of support and warranty, and I'm sure would likely better spend their money on their employees to do work for current and upcoming product. So yes, it does, and no, it won't anymore, I guess would be the answer, just because of its age. Somebody likes the stickers all over this thing. It's crazy, isn't it? That's actually just one big sticker on the side there. That's just one big sticker. That's all it is. Then there's a couple small stickers up on front for the NVIDIA inside and Intel inside. And then there's this other sticker up here. Optical illusion. All right, let me see if I go to, let's right click. News and interests, we'll turn that off. That gets rid of that icon there. Let's open this even though we have no internet. Just to get it out of the way, take the flash drive out. We're done with that. Set up, continue without signing in. Perfect. Now, the other thing I'll do is I'll turn these notifications off. They drive me crazy. Clear all notifications, manage notifications, and turn those off. This email never works right. I don't want customers using it, so I always remove it. It only works well with Microsoft Outlook or Hotmail. Now, Microsoft supposedly has addressed this in Windows 11, but they've already sort of burned that bridge from my perspective. So I still recommend people not use it, unless they're an Outlook.com user. Let's see, somewhere down here on the floor, I have an Ethernet cable. Here it is. Tangled. Plug this in, and now we can grab our Windows 10 updates, and hopefully that'll grab drivers for us too. And once all that's done, we can go to Asus directly for any drivers that are missing. I suspect we should get everything though. We'll go to Windows Update. You know? Now you notice it said Windows is not activated. In theory, without entering a product key, as long as we're entering or installing rather Windows 10 Pro, and our key was for Windows 10 Pro or Windows 8 Pro or Windows 7 Pro, during this process of downloading updates, the activation server should recognize the serial number of the motherboard and send our activation code back to us, put it into the registry, and automatically activate Windows with us not having to do anything. And as you can tell, I do not have a Microsoft account. I did not sign into a Microsoft account. Usually the only time this doesn't work is if that key has been reused on another motherboard and then it got reassigned to recognize the other motherboard. So we'll find out here. We'll let that run, and let me go back to what's going on in the chat. Mitch Morrison joins us in the chat. Welcome in, Mitch. Sam Lazar says the Windows 7 Ultimate key will work to activate Windows 10 Pro. Yeah, that makes sense. That should be fine. Tim Teal says, I got the AD03 drivers off of your Google Drive and they worked perfectly. All right, wonderful. Then I don't have to lift a finger. That's the best kind of help I love to give. Let me see if I've missed any other questions. If you have questions, technical questions for me, this will be a good time to ask as we're waiting for the downloads to download and to install these updates. So while we're sitting here sort of biding our time, I'll let you know that you should be following me on Twitter. I post links there to ongoing news items that I don't necessarily think are worthy of a video, such as Intel's announcement that they are supporting Asus, as Asus is going to continue developing the NUC line of product. Intel says they're stepping out of the NUC line. They're not investing anymore in it, but they are going to be working with Asus, and Asus will be continuing to develop and introduce new NUC PCs, mini PCs. And of course, other manufacturers like Minis Forum and B-Link and Ace Magician and Camrui will continue their development of mini PCs as well. So that has no impact on the other manufacturers. Are more customers using Windows 10 or Windows 11? Windows 10 by far. I think Windows 11 makes up less than 30% of the infrastructure. Maybe 35% at the most. The rest is Windows 10 with the bulk majority. There are some Linux computers and such out there, but when it's Windows 10 versus 11, 11 is hurting in the marketplace. Yeah. You can Google that to get some exact numbers more up to date. Matt Power wants to know if Mitch has a dad joke of the day. Ralph Kirby said, I just sent you something via PayPal. All right, Ralph, let me check my PayPal. Give me something to do while I'm waiting. Oh, I do see an email. $25 from Ralph Kirby. He says, this is for the channel. Right on. Well, thank you, Ralph. Thank you for supporting the channel. Maybe I'll get that Sony camera after all. Sam Kowalski said he sent me a super chat. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. Did I miss your contribution? Shame on me. Oh, there it is. Yeah, $2 from Samuel Kowalski. He says, keep up the great work, Kerry. Thank you for letting me know I missed that, Samuel. Thank you for supporting the channel. So downloading that cumulative update. There's two cumulative updates that are, one's installing and one's downloading. And I want to go ahead and, okay, that one just finished installing. We'll wait for the second one to finish downloading and installing, and then I'll initiate the restart, and then we can check our Windows activation status. I had to get a bunch of computers out this week. That's why there wasn't a show. Well, yesterday I had a dental appointment, and Tuesday and Wednesday both I had to get computers shipped. So I did get a computer shipped yesterday after my dental appointment. And then the folks over at Zulu want me to send back the Zulu mini PC that I'm having problems with. And my problem is, you know, I have to shut my business down to go to the post office, and the post office around here closes very early. So they ended up sending me a prepaid, supposedly it was a prepaid USPS pickup. So the post office, when they deliver the mail, will knock on my door, and if I have this boxed up and ready to go, they'll pick it up, and it's already prepaid. That's great. That works out great. But then they emailed me and said the site's not working and allowing them to prepay it. They said, what if we paid you an extra $20? Would that get you to go to the post office? I'm like, no. I mean, you know, I told them, why don't you just send me another unit and I'll pay for it? That's $600, because that's cheaper for me than shutting my business down to go to the post office. There's a lot of work that people are waiting on. And this is a problem if you're going to order these computers from overseas. And I told them, I said, you know, shipping items from America back to Hong Kong is very, very expensive. I guess they didn't believe me. So when they couldn't get the United States Postal Service prepaid label paid for, they tried FedEx, DHL, and UPS and said, they emailed me, they said, oh my gosh, it'll cost more to send that computer back than buying a new one. I said, I know, it's what I told you. And they said, we want to fix the one you've got. We don't have any others to send you. And by the way, here's the proper way to install ribbon cables. And they sent me a link to some Russian video. I'm like, okay, you know, I've been doing this over 30 years. I don't think you really know who I am. Well, we think, you know, maybe one of the ribbon cables isn't installed right, or the SSD's gone bad. So I'm not going to argue with them. They're treating me like I'm a complete moron. They don't listen to what I tell them. I'm not going to argue with them. There's a part of me that wonders if they're even going to send it back at this point, but I don't even care. I mean, it's no good to me the way it's functioning. But the idea that they think it's something that they can fix, it's going to be board level. Whatever it is to fix the Zulu computer, there is a component on the board that's either not soldered correctly or has gone bad. If it is a ribbon cable, then it's because the ribbon cable has gone bad. It's not because of anything I've done. I didn't make this problem. I'm just trying to fix it to avoid the trouble of sending it back. Now somehow they think that, you know, I've already replaced the solid state drive and I've already reseated the ribbon cables a half dozen times, but they still seem to think it's a driver ribbon cable. So they need to have this in their hands so that they can fully understand and grasp their oversimplification of how complicated this problem is. It's far more serious. And I understand they're accustomed to dealing with ordinary users who, you know, don't have 30 years of repair experience in the industry, but they're also not showing me any respect. And it's a couple of times they talked to me in a way that I thought was very disrespectful. Now, whether or not that's a cultural difference or I'm dealing with somebody who's unprofessional, I don't know. I do think the computer looks really cool, but I want to share my experience in dealing with this company if you're considering buying anything from them. This is extraordinarily unpleasant. And the idea that they're oversimplifying the complexity of the repair, which is implying I'm an idiot, or that my time has no value, that I should go down to the post office in the middle of a workday, shut my business down so I can get this to them so they can fix it, so they can get a good review. You know, you got to send me a product that works. I I don't really see them seeing the big picture here. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not entirely pissed off at them, but if I had given them money to pay for this unit and this is how they talk to me and this is the process for getting repairs, I would never buy anything from them again. The only reason I'm tolerating it at this point is because it hasn't cost me anything yet. And I do want to show you original content. And I don't know if anybody else had that Zulu PC up on review even still. So, you know, I do it for the channel. Greg Lilly says, Harvard University just sent me an honorary expulsion. Ralph Kirby said he's got to go, but he'll see us tomorrow. Yes, we will be live every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific. That's 4 p.m. Eastern. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. Yeah, Gil Garcia says no one else has a video of the Zulu. Well, if you searched with the letter Z, you're not going to find it. It's spelled with the letter X. John Williams says, Carrie, I hope your AC is working at 100%. Yeah, it is, and it's still not enough. It's pretty hot in here. Studio lights aren't helping. Douglas Burchell with a $5 contribution. He says, thanks for another great show. Hope all went well at the dentist yesterday. Oh, it's a multi-part visit. So we're done with part 1, and then we'll go to part 2 in a couple weeks. Those aren't the best ones. It's got a cliffhanger. I think I've been at the dentist every single week in July so far. I said to the dentist, says, hi, how are you? I said, I'm good. Did you miss me? I was just there. And then I was just there the week before that. So yeah, that's always fun. But they're good folks over there. Could be worse. Almost done with this install, and then we can restart the computer here. So as you can see, as a 4th generation Intel, and part of the reason it was hard to convince the customer to let this computer go was how snappy it is, how responsive. Although when you're actually getting it to do work, especially big computational work in large spreadsheets and doing accounting for, you know, massive, big, complicated payroll and stuff like that for companies, it would really bog down. But on the surface, you know, Windows boots quick, Explorer opens pretty fast, or Chrome. So it kind of gave the appearance it was fast, but under real world use, when you did real world work, it would chug along, and you know, it would get it done. And they were okay with it because they're not the most demanding user. They'll, like I said, they're not really one to complain. They will, you know, if the file takes a minute and a half to load off the NAS, they'll find something to occupy themselves for 90 seconds. They don't really complain about it. But when I'm there and I'm doing work, they say, oh, by the way, can you tell me why this file takes 90 seconds to open? I'm like, yeah, because you're using this old computer. If you would switch it like I told you, like I recommended, this problem should go away. And if it doesn't, then let me know. And of course, yeah, it did fix it. Where are we at? 74%. This is where it always lingers. Greg Lilly says, getting an appointment with my dentist is like pulling teeth, right? Kelly Stewart says hello. Hey, welcome in, Kelly. Jim KJ3N said, my general rule of thumb is if someone brings me a computer for repair that's using DDR3 RAM, I tell them they have to replace the machine. I'm not going down a rabbit hole. That's pretty standard if you're running a professional repair facility. Places like Geek Squad aren't going to accept this for repair. They don't want the liability, and parts can be very difficult to find. And quite often, the repair can cost more than the machine is worth. So that's in general a normal sort of routine accepted, what's the word, response to older computers for those reasons. Oystein joins us and sends a $50 Amazon gift card. He says, thanks for the message. Yeah, as I said in chat, I enjoyed the boat bus guided tour in Sweden very much. I am back in Norway, and tomorrow I'm going up in the mountains for 15 days. Hopefully I'm still having good internet up there. Your friend Oystein. So Oystein is taking a months-long vacation. I guess he spent 2 weeks in Sweden, and then he's going to go be a mountain man for 2 weeks in the mountains up in Norway. Reminds me of a joke. The teacher said, can you name a country that does not have the letter R in it? The student replied, no way. That's bad. Frank M is joining us, and there's my friend Ron Hillier joining us in the chat. Welcome in, everybody. And oh, I think our restart is finally ready. And then when we reboot and go back to Windows Update, I'll take a look at the optional updates. We should find a lot of our device drivers and whatnot automatically detected by Windows Update. At least I hope. I don't think we're going to need anything from the Asus website, but I could be wrong. Bull142 with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Bull142. James Holland says in the chat room, hi, Carrie, I love your channel and the fact you do giveaways for people in need. Vast knowledge you have, and thanks for sharing with the community. Well, thanks, James. I appreciate your kind words. I see a camera girl has arrived.
Hello.
You're late. Charging you a late fee. It is exactly how much you have in your purse. Cash only. Alan Ronald says, g'day from Perth, Western Australia. Cold and wet down here, middle of winter. Welcome in, Alan. Thanks for joining us. Matt says, make her buy dinner. Not after this dental work I just had done. Better be soup. Okay, so back up to the desktop. Let's go to settings. Few optional updates. Oh, we got a ton, so we'll just grab them all. There we go. Did we activate? Let's see. Windows 10 Home. Oh, that's right. You know what? When we installed Windows 10, it never did ask us to select a version, did it? So that means it already pulled the license code from the BIOS, which determined what version of Windows 10 we were installing. And these are obviously computers that were never intended for business use. That's what happens when customers go to the store to buy a computer, even for their business. They're looking at the cheapest thing. So the problem with Windows 10 Home would potentially be networking restrictions, which we never ran into because the business only has like 5 people. And I think you can get up to 10 connections. So with the server, we were up at around 6. I call it the server, it's a NAS. Yeah, interesting. They got away with it. George Perugia says hello. Welcome in, George. Onvid Jose says hello. Hey, welcome in, Jose. Hey, Jose. Mortant pops in and says hello. Chris Smith says hello. Welcome in. Good to see everybody. If you're enjoying the content and you want to see more interactive content like this, be sure and hit the thumbs up button. Where's my logo? Where's my overlay for liking and subscribing? Here somewhere. Oh, I put it all the way at the bottom. That's why I can't find it. There it is. Look at me go with my fancy graphics. Click the thumbs up if you're enjoying the video, and be sure and subscribe and turn notifications on if you're not already subscribed. PC Fishing has renewed his membership. He's now been a member for 14 months. Hello, Kerry. In chat, he says, it is 5 days past my 14-month milestone, but I wanted to check in. We bought a home in which we will no longer be living in San Francisco. So it's 1 to 1.5 hours away, and it is hot. Yeah, people moving out of San Francisco in droves. Very expensive to live there, an extraordinary crime rate happening. Start this now. Mark Gaines contributes 10 pounds as Camera Girl's late fee. Thank you, Mark. Mark joins us from Northern Ireland. Matt Power said it's nice and cool here in Maine, where it's 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, rub it in. Okay, let me go back to full screen over here so I can see what's happening. We'll take a look at the device manager just for grins. I'm not done with Windows Update yet, but I want to see where we're standing. Oh, yeah, we don't need any device drivers. They're already done. Just as I suspected. Bit of a benefit of an older computer. I usually remove all this stuff too. I'll just right click and unpin from start all this stuff here. I like the taskbar to be skinny. And then of course the customer can add whatever icons they want to by right clicking on an icon and choosing pin to start. And if we right click and go to system, we see the processor and everything. We already did this before. Nothing's changed. 4790S CPU, 12 gigs of RAM. Windows 10 Home, 22H2. You see when I'm clicking on stuff, I mean, it's opening pretty quick. It's pretty responsive. But these are all pretty lightweight tasks. It's, again, the heavy lifting that it's going to struggle with. It'll do it. Don't get me wrong. It'll do photo editing. It will do video editing. But it's going to be a while. Obviously, this computer is not and will never be Windows 11 compatible, unless Microsoft changes the requirements, which they're not likely going to do. And given its age, you know, it's got another 2 years of life in it, a little more than 2 years. By the end of 2026, this machine should either be running Linux or be recycled, melted down, and used for precious metals and spare parts. There's Rick Lakes joining us, says hello. And Paul M says they're having a cold snap in Fresno. It's only 102 degrees Fahrenheit today for them. Lovely. Douglas says it's 73 degrees in Oakland, California. Yeah, of course it is. Alan says kangaroos are bouncing around outside his window in Australia. Ron says you can turn that into a retro gaming PC. No, you can. I got work to do. But yeah, that's a good point. You could turn these older machines into, you know, not proprietary, but sort of one-use machines like retro gaming. There's an audience for that. Oh boy, more updates. All right, guys, we're just about done with today's video. Once these updates are complete, it's a simple matter of removing some of the unwanted apps that Windows 10 installs by default. I throw on VLC as the video player and take out the Groove music player, the media player that Microsoft includes. VLC replaces that. I think it's a lot better. Take out the Xbox stuff like that. And then I run storage sense to clear out any of the install files, remove all the temp files, and I'll run disk cleanup after that, which should be redundant, but disk cleanup still finds even more junk files. And that frees up that precious hard drive real estate. Once that's been done, that's pretty much all there is to it. Then it can be rehomed, or it can live on. I guess if Ron wants it, he could have it if he wants to come all the way over here to pick it up. It's a long drive, and it's a hot day out there. It's even a hot night. I don't think we've been below 90 any night for the last 2 weeks. It's crazy hot. Trying to avoid going outside as much as possible. I mean, that's my general rule, but even more so now with the temps as high as they are. Paul said he's got a Z97 Pro Gamer board with an i7 4770K, and it has a Gen 3 M.2 NVMe slot in it. So the Z87, I think, was the first time I saw an M.2 slot. And the socket type on a Z97 takes a 4th gen Intel. I can't remember. I guess if that's what you've got, it's possible. But that's a wonky configuration because that board, if I'm not mistaken, the Z97 didn't come out for like 3 years after the 4th gen Intel chip came out. I bet there's an interesting story why you put an old CPU in a new motherboard. Let's try Windows Update one more time. Screen. We'll get rid of these little cartoon things down here on the search bar by right-clicking the taskbar under Search. click show search box, and that turn, oh, sorry, not show search box. What was I thinking? Show search highlights and uncheck that. And we'll hit Windows Update one more time, and it should tell us now that we're fully up to date. That looks good. And then as far as like storage sense, I can, well, first I would go to the control panel, their apps, and just take out the apps I don't want, right? I mean, you guys might want them. I don't want them, and my customers don't want them. And they're easy to put back on through the Windows features options here. So taking out anything that can't be replaced. I'll take out OneDrive too, because that takes up resources and very few people ever use it, at least in my world. And then mixed reality portal can go. Movies and TV can go. This trial version of Microsoft Office can go. It's just advertising for Microsoft. Skype can go, unless the customer needs it, but they can download and install it if they need it. Xbox can go. Xbox Live can go. The other game bar from Xbox and your phone, I think, cannot be removed. See how those are shaded out. So there's things I would remove, but if they're shaded out, I'm not going to force a removal of them. Of course, I could if I wanted to, but I wouldn't do that to a customer. So I'm going to type in storage settings. Here we go. Turn that on, and we'll configure it to run every 30 days. And clean now. Then I will use disk cleanup. I'll just type right here, disk. Yeah, I don't even have to finish writing it. I'll hit cleanup system files. And even though we just ran storage sense, you'll see there's still a ton of temp files that were left behind. Oh, in this case, it's not too bad. Let me check all the boxes and see how big we can make that number go. 1.5 gigs, I'd say that's substantial. Click OK. That cleanup. Of course, I'll run Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer, which is still available for sale. It's like $7 over at D7X Tech, the link for which is in the video notes below the video. And yes, it works fine on Windows 11. I'm not sure what advantage it gives you, but it does turn things like storage sense on, enables them and configures them for you, removes the indexing to save hard drive space, and a bunch of other little tweaks that, you know, added up can make a difference in the performance in the computer. So there's no activation for it. Once you have it, you can run it on as many machines as you want indefinitely. It doesn't expire. I can't stop you from copying it and giving it to your friends. I would just ask you not to do that and help support the channel so we can continue to buy product and make videos of a variety. We're not doing the same thing all the time. And we're able to independently review rather than accept sponsorship money where we have to basically make commercials for companies and we can't say anything critical about them without sacrificing sponsorship. So as long as we buy our own equipment, we're free to say anything we want to about it. And we can buy what we want to review, not what companies want us to review. And it's yours, Super Chat contributions and your memberships that enables me to do this and to do it more often and the scale at which I do it. So, you know, I'm not reviewing $6,000 machines because there's just the scale of this couldn't afford that. But it has resulted in me buying a lot of equipment that I otherwise would not have been able to afford in order to continue to maintain a variety and a larger number of videos than I would be able to do based on what YouTube's been paying, which is about 50% less than what they were paying me 2 years ago. It's pretty bad. So despite the fact the channel is a third larger and has a third more video content available, the money should be going up, but the money with all of that growth is cut in half. So you can imagine if I didn't have all that growth, the money would be down to about 25%. So if If I was making $1,000 a month, I would be making $250 a month. And through the growth and everything we've done, now that's, if it was $1,000 a month 2 years ago, it's $500 a month now. So I think that trend is going to continue, and I might have to find some creative sponsorships. Still working on trying to find that balance. But in the meantime, I had an opportunity to do this work. I told the customer I'd recycle it for him. I'm going to securely erase all the free space. You can use CCleaner. You can use a portable version so you don't have to install it and leave anything behind. And part of the tools, I don't use CCleaner to do any cleanup. I just use the wipe free drive space or empty drive space, and it'll just write over the empty drive space with ones and zeros randomly to securely make sure that nothing can be recovered off the SSD. And then at that point, it's good to go to somebody. So we'll be having another giveaway here soon. I've got the 2 Lenovo machines and the Dell desktop that were sent here from viewers. With the Lenovos, I decided to put 16 gigs of RAM in them and upgraded the 128 gig SSDs to a 500 gig SSD from Fangjing. It's a 2.5-inch SSD. They were $25 a piece. The RAM was $25, so it's a $50 investment on each machine. And those are going to be giveaways for veterans and people in need coming up soon. And I think that is going to be the show. I think we're done. Johnny says 10 out of 10, Carrie. Well, thank you, Johnny. Crazy Vera says hello. Good to see you, Crazy Vera. Alan wants to know what I think about sysinternal utilities for Windows. Sysinternals is fantastic. I haven't had much need for them for the last 2 years. That doesn't mean that it's not saying anything bad about sysinternals. It's just that the reasons we were using it, as the landscape changes, the PC and IT landscape change, the need for such a utility is only diminishing. And now I can't recall the last time I ever had to use it. So I don't keep it updated. Like I said, it's been over 2 years since I've had to use it. So a great utility if you need it. I'm finding less and less reason for it. I will say, the creator, Mark Rusinovich, very knowledgeable guy, very much respect him. I also want to take a moment to announce, I saw the news today that Kevin Mitnick died. He was 59 years old and had pancreatic cancer he'd been battling for some time. Kevin, as you recall, sort of the original hacker. He was put on solitary confinement, even though he didn't even have a court date. They were holding him in solitary because they were afraid he could whistle into a phone and hack a computer just through his voice. Kevin Mitnick's an old school hacker where it was social engineering, where you had to actually, look somebody in the eye or fool somebody by actually being there, not through a bot or through AI or through links and emails. He actually impersonated people, gained their trust to get access. There's no piece of software that could protect you from a social engineer. And he became very successful once he got out of jail in PC security and was very nice. I was very lucky enough to have met him. I was at a DEF CON convention, a hacker convention in Las Vegas. I got to interview him, and he was very, very nice and very open with sharing little hacking tips and tricks. He didn't keep things secret. He'd very openly show you how things were done and was very happy to do it. So he died too young for sure. And I'm just very grateful I got to meet him, because if you believe some of the things people said about him online, you'd think he was a horrible monster or that he wasn't a true hacker because hackers use keyboards. Now, I think what Kevin did was far more brave and took bigger cojones to basically impersonate people right to their face and get away with it. Pretty ingenious. And some of the other hacks he's demonstrated since then We're also pretty innovative. It's just a guy that thinks out of the box. So kind of leave that on a downer. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody for your contributions and your support. One more time, I'll go through the super chats. Thank you to Mark Gaines and Samuel Kowalski, as well as Davis Parsons, Alan Lindas, and Planet Cryos. Thanks to Chris Garrett and PC Fishing for their memberships, for renewing those. And on the PayPal side of things, thank you to Luke Greenia for your PayPal contribution. Thank you to Oystein, joining us from Sweden, for the Amazon gift card. And to... Did I get it all? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Ralph Kirby. Thank you guys again for supporting the channel, for hanging out with me. I am live every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. I've got a really unique mini PC to review that, as far as I know, I don't think there's one other video about this. So again, I'm trying to make original content or unique content. So hopefully it'll be something you guys didn't even know existed. That's 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope I'll see you then. In the meantime, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Till then, bye for now.